we have breaking news in the Brandon Aiyuk saga. My dad and I will discuss that next on the Cohn Zone. It's August 20th, 2024, and nothing has happened with Brandon Aiyuk. Still, that is the great Lowell Cohn. I am Grant Cohn, and we're here on Aiyuk Watch. It keeps going on, but every day there's a new report that isn't really a report. Let me read you the latest report, and I want to get your take on where things currently stand. This is according to Jordan Schultz, who has 300,000 followers on Twitter. Sources: the 49ers and Brandon Aiyuk had another meeting yesterday, and talks continue to progress on a long-term contract extension. There has been movement on a deal, but there are some minor details that still need to be ironed out with ownership approval. What do you think, Dad?
Movement sounds like a bowel movement.
Movement?
That's about what they've achieved so far.
Yeah.
The breaking news is that someone had a bowel movement.
Yeah. Wash their hands. Feels a lot lighter. Better.
Look, I think we can say certain things for sure. Nothing has been finalized.
No.
And a lot of time has gone by, and nothing has been finalized. That's for sure. Either they're going to trade him or they're going to sign him. That's for sure. What I'm feeling is, and we've discussed this privately, it feels now like a battle of egos.
Yep.
The Niners don't want him to get over on them.
Mm-hmm.
He doesn't want the Niners to get over on them. And it's degenerated into something personal. And what I would say is a plague on both their houses, which is a paraphrase from Romeo and Juliet. Mercutio said it. And you played Mercutio when you were how old? 11?
12. I belted that line. Remember that?
Let's hear it. Let's hear it.
A plague on both your... Oh, Maddie's over there. I don't want to do that. Maddie's podcasting. But I was 12, and I had a lot of emotion. I emoted very well, and I got stabbed to death on stage. Mercutio.
So Maddie's in the same room as you?
He's over there. Usually I'm on that side, but he beat me to that side, so I'm on the left side today. I'm kind of upset about it, but it's actually the same exact backdrop, so I'll let it slide this one time.
Okay. I have other things to say.
Okay.
2 other points, if I can remember them. What concerns me about Aiyuk, what kind of football shape is he in?
Yep.
Wherever he goes, you never see him working out. Where's he doing the workouts? He's not allowed to work, or he won't allow himself to work out with the team. He seems to hang around like a loiterer, or you don't see him. So is there some other football team? Is he down with Stanford, playing with Stanford, or with the Cal team, or San Jose State? Where's he doing his running and keeping his legs in shape and weightlifting and catching passes? How ready is he going to be when this thing starts?
Maybe he's working on his golf game. That's what I've been doing.
You're allowed. And the other thing, Iggy, and we never really talk about him, it's all Aiyuk. What about Trent Williams?
Right.
They haven't worked anything out with him either. Where is he practicing? Is he with the San Jose State team?
No, it was actually reported that he's at home playing golf. That was reported.
Okay. So, okay. And look, he's a Hall of Fame player. Perhaps he is so good.
Yeah.
He can just come in from the golf course and be the best left tackle in the league right away. But Iggy, I'm skeptical of that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And here's one other thing I want to say. I'm coming back to Aiyuk. And as a journalist, I would have to say, this is the most poorly reported story in a long time, Iggy. Maybe ever. And I'm talking reputable journalists. I'm going to say Adam Schefter. Now, because he's the best. And Adam Schefter, I have tremendous respect for. It seems like it's a moving target and things keep changing. Now, Schefter, I want to tell you something interesting about him. He used to be a real journalist. He worked for a paper in Denver. And you don't know this, but Schefter's parents went to Penn State with Ira Miller.
Wow.
And did you know that?
Wow.
Schefter's parents went to Penn State with Ira.
Was
Ira, the legend.
Was Ira at Schefter's bar mitzvah?
I
Fair
don't
question.
know. He
I would
may have
imagine
been
he
at
might have
Schefter's
been.
bar
He might
mitzvah.
have been at Schefter's bar mitzvah.
I'll have to ask him.
Yeah.
Because, Iggy, you know that Ira is coming to stay with me next week.
I do know that.
He's flying out from Chicago, the legendary 49ers writer, and my dear friend Ira is going to be here, and we will ask him, Iggy, if he was at Schefter's bar mitzvah. So what I'm saying is I'm not putting Schefter down because he's the best. But this is an impossible story to report. It's impossible, and maybe people should have waited a while.
It seems like it's the number one story in football or up there, and so you have so much to gain financially by saying something about it or having information about it, and all these people who are paid to have information have none. And so every couple of days, someone else says, I have an update. It's a fluid situation. No one really knows what's happening. Like, that's not an update. I heard from sources that no one knows what's happening. Like, well, I could have told you that. So that's part of it.
Okay, let's do an update and then finish what you were going to say. Give an update right now.
Hold on. I'm hearing from multiple sources right now, Dad, that this could go any number of directions. That's what people are telling me. One more thing. You said that it feels personal between the Niners and Aiyuk. It really does. It really does. And you wonder, like, we only know 5% of what really happens on a team. How long has it been personal between Aiyuk and the 49ers? It seems like he's had his little grudge or grievance for years. I mean, again, when I took his mom out for dinner in Green Bay, like, the first thing she wanted to talk about was like, why did the coach put my son in the doghouse? I don't understand. He doesn't understand. So there's been some type of disconnect for years with them. And now it's finally Ayuk's turn to say, like, you need to bend the knee to me. And the Niners are like, absolutely freaking not. You bend it to us. And he's like, no. So I think it's kind of interesting.
It is kind of interesting. And I do think it's personal. For example, I don't think the Trent Williams is personal. No, I don't feel that at all. But this is because Aiyuk cannot control himself. That's how agitated he seems to be.
Yeah, of all the players on the team, it seems like he's one who could really actually be happy not being here. I think the Niners are like, you don't really want to go to Pittsburgh, right? Like, they're not that good. You want to be with us. And he's thinking, I would love to play for Mike Tomlin. I respect Mike Tomlin. I don't know if I want to play for Kyle Shanahan. I mean, he wouldn't be the first player who had mixed feelings about Kyle Shanahan. It seemed like Jimmy Ward had the same mixed feelings, and now he's on a different team.
It's perhaps, let's just say with Ward, it's a hypothetical. We don't know for sure. Is that fair enough, Iggy?
He did seem to say that he didn't like the way he was benched by Kyle Shanahan his last year, and he had to go straight to him, and they had a conversation, and Kyle said, you can either play nickel or ride the bench, and Jimmy said, cool, put me on the bench. I'll be the best special teamer you got. And he said that with a smile.
And that's what Jimmy told you?
That's what Jimmy said publicly. Yeah, go ahead, Kyle. You can bench me. I'll be the best special teamer you got. You can have a $10 million guy on special teams and tell that to ownership. And Kyle backed off.
Wow. Jimmy Ward. You know, Iggy, there are very few players that exist today that I would like to have covered.
Yeah.
God, would I love to have covered Jimmy Ward.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, it would have been a blast.
Agree. All right, last thing on Ike, then we'll move on to Brock. It feels like, it is personal. It's been reported that the Steelers have offered a little less than $28 million, and the Niners have offered close to the Steelers' offer. So it seems like Aiyuk says, no, you have to match it. And the Niners are like, no, we're going to come close, but not match it. And again, that's all ego. Like, we don't want to go the final 5%. You go It's like when you see someone in a room and you refuse to walk over to them. Like, no, you have to walk to me. It's that kind of power trip. And they're like 5 feet away from each other.
Right. And can I tell you something else?
Yeah.
It's embarrassing to witness.
That's the main point here. It's embarrassing for both sides. Like,
right.
The Niners can try to act like Ayuk's being immature. They're being equally immature.
Right. I don't take a side. A plague on both their houses.
Yep. I love it. All right. Enough BA for today. When there's another report in 30 minutes, we'll talk about that non-report. Let's talk about the preseason game from 2 days ago. Preseason is boring, and usually there's nothing to analyze, but there was something so out of the ordinary. Kyle Shanahan played his starting quarterback and none of the other starters except for a couple guys in the offensive line against a team that was playing all of their starters on defense. Most coaches wouldn't do this, but Kyle isn't most coaches. What did you think? Was it smart?
No, I don't. And I don't understand his reasoning. And what's more, I have trouble making a hypothesis about his reasoning. All I know is when I watch, excuse me, guys, when I watched, people got their hands on Purdy. He was not untouched in that game. Are you serious? Why would you do that? He didn't put the best offensive line out. He doesn't have the left tackle. He didn't have his best running back, the best wide receivers. It's like threw him a ball. Go crazy, Brock. Have a good time. I don't understand it. And if I were still a functioning columnist, that would have been my column that day. How reckless Kyle had been in a meaningless game where Purdy didn't learn anything and
Right.
didn't play well. And he didn't play well because no one could. Johnny Unitas couldn't have played well in that situation. Joe
Yeah.
Montana. And so there, I'm going to praise Kyle later about a certain thing. But in this, no, I think it was thoughtless and careless.
Yeah. Right. There's a risk reward equation you have to take all the time in football. It's a dangerous sport. The risk is I'm throwing my franchise quarterback on the field with no one that he plays with against a good defense, and he might get hurt in a game that doesn't count. The reward is he'll get a feel for game speed. He knows what game speed is. He's played in the league before. I mean, he's not going to get any extra reps throwing to anyone he's going to be throwing to in the regular season. So it's not like he's working on chemistry with someone. It's just getting his ass kicked, having a bad game, and then escaping. That's what he learned.
That wasn't game speed. It was escape speed.
Escape speed.
It was escape speed. And again, Iggy, there are I don't know Kyle. I've never met him. I've never looked him in the eye. There are many things about how he thinks that I don't understand. And if I were in that building as a journalist, boy, would I have a lot of questions for him. I would say, why did you play your quarterback? And then he'd have some, prefabricated answer. If I had the microphone, I would ask a follow-up. I would actually say, Kyle, from my point of view, it was very risky why you did it. Why did you take the chance?
Yep.
That's what I would have been, the follow-up question. I think it's risky. Why'd you take the chance?
Yeah. And he would say something like, well, I mean, it should have been asked. He would say something like, well, it's football and we can't protect these guys. Fact is, he didn't think that Deebo Samuel should play in that game. He wanted to protect Deebo because having a wide back who can play running back sometimes is so important. But the quarterback needed to go out there and get some knocks and get a little, get a lather up. Like, what are you talking about?
Yeah, I don't understand it. I don't.
And what's interesting about Kyle is like, he's supposed to be a genius. He's very smart. He thinks things through, but then he'll make a decision like that. It's like, is he insane? Is he not smart? But it's like, no. He's not insane. He is smart. So why did he make this decision? And I think when you start going down that road, like, it's dark. I don't even want to put those motivations on him, but it's like,
no, don't even.
It's dark. There. It's like, did you want people to see him without his? Did you want people to see that? No Kyle calling plays, no supporting cast. What does Brock look like? Like, I don't know. It seems like Jim Harbaugh, good coaches do their best to prop up their quarterback and protect him. And none of that was happening 2 days ago.
Iggy, I would also want to come back to one thing you said, and maybe it's nitpicky. You said Kyle's smart. Let's talk about that for a minute. I have surrounded myself in my life with very smart people. I mean, in sports and at Stanford, I had professors that even now I dream about how brilliant they were and how I wish that I was as smart as them. Kyle is very smart about some areas of football. He is. Although he doesn't how to close a game, I take it back. He hasn't shown the ability to close Super Bowls. And that's the ultimate test, the ultimate IQ test. But I'd say he has a very high football IQ. I don't find him particularly smart I don't mean he's stupid, but I find him average. When he answers questions, his manner of speaking, the vocabulary he uses, the way he conceptualizes ideas. If I wouldn't be his friend, I wouldn't feel interested in him, except as a football coach. But I don't choose my friends. I was never friends with athletes or coaches, except in one case. But I I wouldn't if he were at dinner at our house when mom was alive and you were there and your brother Brian, I don't think he would interest mom. I don't I mean, she'd say, "What movie have you seen? What book have you read recently? What do you think about's happening with the presidential election? What food do you like? What is your favorite cuisine?" Iggy, I don't think he'd be interesting on any of those topics, but he would be interesting on the zone blocking scheme.
Yeah. I just feel like part of him gets off on doing things that other coaches couldn't get away with. Like if Robert Saleh on the Jets played Aaron Rodgers for 3 series with no starters against a team that had their starting defense out there. I mean, the entire New York media would call him stupid. There would be like really disrespectful headlines in the New York Post and the New York Daily
Right.
News calling Robert Saleh a freaking idiot. But Kyle Shanahan does it and everyone's silent because, well, he's the best coach in the league. He's everyone agrees he's a great coach, right? Like, yes and no. I guess he has certain strengths, but like this, what he did was legitimately at best insane.
I wouldn't go that far. I called it thoughtless and careless. Could we agree on thoughtless and careless? And risky.
For sure, thoughtless, careless, risky.
Yeah, risky. Let's add risky. So I
But
guess
again, to
we're
say
really,
it was thoughtless, like he put no thought into it, like, oh, I'll just play my quarterback. I don't even, what risks? Like, I just can't imagine that he put no thought into it. That dude thought it through and was like, no, this is a great idea.
but you know what? There are certain people watching us right now that say that you're a hater.
Maybe.
No,
All I know is
you're
if
not
Brock
a
got
hater.
hurt in that game, that people be mad at Kyle, not me. I didn't almost get Brock hurt.
Yeah, and also you're not a hater. You're an analyst. That's different.
Yeah. I love Kyle Shanahan. Big fan. NorCal Benny G says, Lowell, I used to ask you questions while on Chronicle Live. It's so enjoyable seeing you voice your opinions with your sweetie. You guys rock.
He is my sweetie. And, I told you, I used to sometimes, we'd be in the press box together and I'd be working. He'd be to my left and I'd say, "Hey, sweetie, what do you think of that?" And he would say, "Stop it, Dad." But then Mike Schumann, I love Mike Schumann. If you're watching Mike, he started calling Iggy sweetie. He'd go around the press box and say, "How you doing, sweetie?" Or he'd see the two of us and he'd say, "They're the sweeties." He did. He was very cute.
Niner Gang says, can we please get a special appearance from Ira?
By the way, we're talking about that. We haven't broached it with Ira yet because he might get nervous, but we're going to nail him when he comes next week. And we're going to try to get it. Thank you so much, but we're already talking about it.
Okay. We were just very critical of Kyle in the interest of fair and balanced journalism. Let's talk about something he's doing right now, which is interesting and kind of generous. Kyle Shanahan has been letting Clay Kubiak, the assistant quarterbacks coach, the son of Gary Kubiak, who was Mike Shanahan's offensive coordinator and play caller for a long time, the opportunity to call plays in the preseason. Did it the first game against the Titans, did it last game against the Saints, and might do it again against the Raiders. What do you think of Kyle Shanahan giving Clay this opportunity?
I love it. I do. And that's where I find Kyle so complicated. And again, I wish I knew him. I wish I had a feel for him. And you don't know someone till you look him in the eye. And so I can't. I think what he's doing, first of all, is so generous. Well, you may disagree. So let me have my say.
I have a theory for why he's doing it, but it is generous.
Okay. I'm happy for you to disagree. Let me finish my thought and then go for it. I think it's generous. I think it's creative. I think it's unusual. And I would say this. I think Kyle Shanahan is a very good coach to coaches.
Yes.
I think we hadn't talked about this.
Yes.
I think he's a great coach of coaches. Bill Walsh was.
Yeah.
I think he's a better coach of coaches than he is of players.
I agree.
That's what I had to say.
I like that. Yep.
You do?
That's a great distinction. He is a great coach of coaches. I mean, like, I don't respect him as a coach so much. I think he's overrated, but Robert Saleh clearly respects him, and I respect Saleh. So people who have worked with him, other coaches, see him as the real deal. I'm not sure every player does. I got another reason why he may be letting Clay do this. Remember when Kyle first came in the league, he was like 27, and he became an offensive coordinator for Gary Kubiak, not with his dad, with Kubiak and the Texans. So he was originally quality control with Gruden. Then Kubiak made him offensive coordinator at like 27, 28 years old. And maybe this is a favor that Kubiak called in like, hey, Kyle, you're doing great. Love you. Thank you so much for having my son on the staff. Remember about 20 years ago when I gave you your start when no one else in the league would have done that because it seemed like nepotism, but I believed in you and now you're great. You know, it would be so nice. I'm not saying you gotta, but it'd be really nice if you threw my kid a bone and let him call some play to preseason. It doesn't even matter. It just feels like someone called in a favor and Kyle said, yes, sir. I thank you. Of course. Absolutely.
Well, if that's the case, I love it. I hadn't thought of that.
Yeah.
So thank you. If that's the case, I still like what he's doing.
Me too. Me too.
I think it's a nice thing to repay favors.
Yes.
I do. And if Kyle can put his ego out of it and say, you know, Kubiak's correct. I owe this family that. Let's go for it. Then I say, I like that part of Kyle, and I wish I actually knew him. Yeah.
That way, if and when Clay Kubiak gets an opportunity to be an offensive coordinator somewhere else, when he's in the interview, he can say, I've actually called plays.
Right.
And you know what? With Clay Kubiak, before he worked for the Niners, he was working at a very famous high school in Houston. I believe he was the offensive coordinator and play caller on the team and an English teacher.
Whoa.
Yeah. Yeah. So we got a poet calling plays. We got a Shakespeare buff, a Billy Shakespeare buff. We got to ask him after the game, what's your favorite play by Shakespeare? What are we talking? Top 5 favorite Shakespeare plays. Go in order.
I think I'd have to start for me with The Tempest.
You quoted, you took a line from The Tempest and made it the title of your first book.
Rough Magic about Bill Walsh. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's from The Tempest.
Yeah. So Kyle, we just praised you. You're a great coach of coaches.
Oh, yeah. I think he's up there with Bill Walsh. And what's more, Bill Walsh had great offensive minds. He had Sam Weish, Dennis Green, Mike Holmgren. I don't think they ever called plays. Are you kidding? Bill wouldn't step back. He was too good and his ego was too big. His ego was really big. So what Kyle's doing is unprecedented, I believe, on the Niners.
Yeah, if you think about it, like most coaches find coaching at some point. They were athletes for a while and they figured out maybe in their 20s after college that this was their calling. But Kyle's been groomed to be a coach since he was like 1 year old. That's what he knows.
Yeah.
So he really does have a lot to offer other coaches who haven't been around it as long as he has.
Yeah, he can talk about experience, going with highs and lows, all of that. Yeah. And I think with the exception of how he handled Wilkes, which I have problems with, I think he's really a generous teacher, a generous teacher, mentor, head coach to his other coaches. I do.
I mean, let's look at he made Robert Saleh the defensive coordinator when no one knew who the hell Robert Saleh was. He made Brian Griese the quarterback coach when he had no experience, and he's been a really good quarterback coach. Again, with the exception of Steve Wilkes, he's been pretty much dead on right with every coaching decision hire he's made. And now this year it seems kind of tricky and weird with Nick Sorensen and Brandon Staley, but odds are it's going to work out because Kyle picked it.
Okay. I would say that's to be determined.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's so unusual, but if it does work out, Kyle gets tremendous praise for that. I don't want to pre-praise him. I want to see how it goes. I don't want to pre-praise him, but if it does, it makes me think even more of him as a judge of coaches.
Yeah. I will say the defense was absolutely terrible today, but it was practice. All right. It's sleeper time, Dad. Sleeper time. And now we're going back to the NFL. Unfortunately, they don't have the Niner picks up yet, so let's do the Rams and Detroit. Matthew Stafford against Detroit, week 1. 267.5 passing yards, more or less. What say you?
We're talking about a real game.
A real game. This is in 3 weeks.
Against Detroit.
Against Detroit. 267. That's a lot.
No, I don't think so. Also, I think Detroit's a good team.
I agree. They really improved their defense this year. Let's see. Jared Goff, same number, 267.5 passing yards against the Rams, more or less.
I'd say fewer. And again, he'll throw a pick or two late in the game.
Agree. And if you are new to the Cohn Zone, we always like to be grammatically correct here. So it's fewer, not less. It's should have gone, not should have went. I hate when people say should have went. It really grinds my gears. Should have gone. Get it right.
Should have went.
Should have went? Who says that? Okay. Kyron Williams, the starting running back for the Rams, 77.5 rushing yards.
Yeah. Okay. More.
Kyron's great. We knowing Kyron like we know Kyron. And then finally, Jahmyr Gibbs, running back for Detroit, 61.5 rushing yards. More. It's going to be a rushing game. You got a feeling for that. Let's submit the entry. Oh, $5. There we go. Boom. Download the Sleeper app today. Use promo code Cohn to get a 100% deposit match on your first deposit up to $100. Okay. Dad, did you know that Friday, the last preseason game, the Niners are going to be playing their starters. So not just Brock Purdy, he's going to have other starters around him. What would you like to see from the 49ers in this final preseason game?
Actually, I'm surprised they're going to play the starters in that game. Usually in the last game, you don't. But here's what I'd like to see. I have very definite ideas. Number one, I'd like to see Brock Purdy, for as long as he plays, really be good.
Yeah.
Be efficient, throw a lot of completions, throw no interceptions, not get hit, not be under pressure. That would be number one. Number two, I would like to see the defense, if they're playing the starters, really stand up against the run.
Mm-hmm.
I would like to see that. That would be number two. Number three, I'd like to see the offensive line be better than C+.
Mm-hmm.
Those would be the three things I'd like to see.
I'd like to see that too. I mean, the run defense in particular. First of all, Brock Purdy, he's a very good quarterback. He hasn't had a very good offseason. Doesn't mean he's not a very good quarterback, but like it's almost time. I feel like with this team and this coach and this, he should be able to have one good drive against the Raiders in a preseason game. That's not a lot to ask. And the run defense has been an issue for more than a year. So let's see that you improve. You've added all kind of new players to the defense. Through 2 preseason games, the numbers have been awful. I think they're leading the league in missed tackles. So show that that's an aberration. Starters are out there. Stop the run. It's the Raiders. I couldn't even tell you who their running back is.
Are the Raiders going to play their starters?
I have no idea. Even if they did, would it matter? I mean, they're terrible.
Yeah, that's the thing. There are certain teams in the league that just suck.
Yeah.
And the Raiders just suck. Now, if they end up being over 500, I'll take it back. But I don't think they are going to end up being over 500, Iggy. Yeah. I really don't. That feels to me like a doomed franchise. And, now that they've left Oakland, I don't ever think about them anymore.
Yeah. I want to see the 49ers play with like some type of urgency and passion, because it feels like they've been sort of sleepwalking through the offseason, and they're allowed to because they're so good. If any team can just turn it on, they're one of them. But at the same time, you wonder, like, are you guys a little burnt out? You've played so many games the last 3 years. You've come so close. I mean, I'd like to see that they're not burnt out, because there are so many teams in the NFL with a lot to prove.
Yeah.
I
think they'll play very hard against the Jets.
Yeah.
The question is, how much do they have?
Yeah.
By the way, I think they will beat the Jets, but hold on. If they don't have Trent Williams, I'm not going to pick them to beat the Jets. I'm going to say I simply don't know. I don't know what they are without Trent Williams. Whether or not they have Aiyuk, that wouldn't affect my evaluation. I think if they have Trent Williams, they will beat the Jets. I think Robert Saleh is really doing a good job on defense. He doesn't have a clue about offense. His offensive coordinator is a nudnik. It's that, what's his name? Nathaniel Hackett?
Hackett.
Oy, Gewalt. And his quarterback, I don't know. He seems like a strange guy. He's always doesn't he seem sort of strange?
And he's 40 and he just tore his Achilles.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he's not going to make it through the whole season. So, but having said all that, I do think that they're going to beat the Jets. I think they'll bring it for that game. It's a home game. It's a Monday night game. I think they'll get up for that game and win. How they're going to stand in the whole season, I don't know if they don't have Trent Williams. And again, I don't see Aiyuk as nearly as important as Trent Williams.
Yeah, I mean, if they don't have Trent Williams out there and Brock Purdy gets hurt, that's not Brock Purdy's fault. That's Kyle's fault. That's the organization's fault. How did you put your quarterback behind that offensive line? So they have to have Trent Williams. I agree. He's going to be out there week 1. But what's interesting is, like you said, do they feel they have to have Aiyuk? I mean, they already tried to trade him to New England and Cleveland. They had deals in place with New England and Cleveland, and Aiyuk said no. So what's interesting is, what if this little standoff with Aiyuk actually bleeds into the season a week or 2 or a month, and they do just fine without him? That would really hurt Brandon Aiyuk's position.
And I think that's what the Niners are talking about. They're saying to themselves, we're going to be either as good or almost as good without him. We don't want to get into this big fuss with him. I think losing him is not significant. Losing the left tackle is like losing the quarterback, Iggy.
I absolutely agree. So it's interesting. Let's say Aiyuk isn't there week 1. Trent Williams is. Purdy plays well. Niners win. Good news for the Niners, bad news for Aiyuk. Or let's say Aiyuk sits out a week. They lose. Purdy doesn't play well. Now, okay, Ayuk's position gets better, but Purdy's position next year gets worse. Like, maybe I'm not worth $60 million. You take Brandon Aiyuk away, and now all of a sudden I'm not that good. Like, it seems like one way or another the Niners save money because Brandon Aiyuk sits out.
And it seems that the whole deal is fluid.
Yeah.
Constantly changing. It's constantly changing. And it'll change after game 1 if Aiyuk doesn't play. It'll change either for the Niners or for Aiyuk. It's very hard to say how this is going to go. And what's interesting about it is, I don't care about the contracts. I find it really boring. But this deal, how things could change after game 1, is fascinating.
Right. Because Aiyuk thinks he's like determined his value. He will talk to other teams. They've made offers. He thinks he's worth whatever, 28, 30, whatever. But if the Niners win a bunch of games without him, then all of a sudden his value is way less to them. Or if Purdy's efficiency tanks, then Ayuk's value goes up and Purdy's value goes down. Like, talk about fluid situations. Those two guys' market value, it's to be determined.
Well, right. In fact, we'll learn a lot in game 1, but we won't learn everything. No, we won't. And I want to say another thing. I think Brock Purdy is a very good quarterback.
Yes.
I love to watch him work. No way in life is he worth $60 million a year.
It's the problem.
I'm sorry.
Yep.
I'm sorry.
I agree.
He's just not worth it.
Yeah. And the problem is, it's the same problem with the wide receivers. Like, Aiyuk isn't worth $30 million a year, but then you start pulling up other wide receivers who are making that money. You can argue he's just as good. Well, Purdy isn't worth 55, 60, but freaking Tua's getting it. And I think Brock's better than Tua, so that's the market. And what do? Well,
right.
They got a year to figure it out.
And Iggy, what I want to say is, Miami is overpaying for Tua. Tua is a C+ quarterback.
I agree.
He's a C+ quarterback. He'll fail in every big game.
I agree.
And
so I'm not saying the Niners need to devalue Brock Purdy, but if he somehow devalues himself over the next 12 months, that would probably be good for the 49ers.
Yes, but Iggy, I don't think he will. Let me say that. I really like his work. I don't think he will devalue himself, but I allow for the possibility. And if he does, I'll change my opinion.
Right, because the question with him is, we know he's really good when he has an all-star cast, but he won't have that cast when he's really expensive. So what if you take away 1 or 2 or 3 players? Well, what if McCaffrey's hurt week 1, Ayuk's holding out, and he only has Debo and Kittle and Juszczyk and Jennings, and he struggles? Then all of a sudden you're like, maybe there is something to this. Maybe we still need to see more from Brock. Or if he plays well, it's like, no, he's a real deal. It's a real deal.
You included Juszczyk in that group?
I'm sorry, I take it back. As I said it, it sounded, I was like, I can't believe I'm saying this right now. I felt stupid. I was like outside of my body looking down. Like, is he saying this right now? It's crazy.
Now, look,
thank you for calling me out.
Juszczyk, I never met you. I'm sure you're a very nice man, and I bet you're very interesting. But I'm sorry. At this stage of your career, I don't put you as elite on the Niners or absolutely necessary. I apologize.
You wouldn't call him an offensive weapon with that one catch a game that he has?
I would not call him an offensive weapon. What I would call him is the team mouthpiece. I think when he retires, he should go into the public relations department, because what happens is, I know how it goes. Everybody's in the press box. The game's about to end, and really not a lot happened. So you need a quote.
Mhm.
You need a quote for your story. Let's go to Juszczyk. Did Juszczyk do anything in the game? Is he relevant to the game? No. But he's articulate. He went to a fairly disgraced now Ivy League school, known among other things for its anti-Semitism, and not saying he's an anti-Semite, very clear, but we need a quote. Oh, he'll talk about anything. So I think actually he's an extension right now of the public relations staff.
How much do you want to bet when he retires he's going to end up working for NBC Sports Bay Area with Dante Whitner?
He'd be very good.
He'd be very good.
But hold on. And this is Whitner too. Jeff Garcia was actually critical, so they got rid of him. Apparently, they got rid of him for that. Whitner, who can be very caustic, is very positive. We know he can be caustic, but he's very positive. And Juszczyk, he's got this smile. He's got a great smile and good teeth. He's got very good teeth.
Yes,
he may have had orthodontia. We don't know. He has very good teeth. And he and Dante Hittner will they're really great, and they're trying hard, and they practice hard all week. And even though they lost, this was good, and this was good, and this was good. That's how I think they would. That's how I perceive that they would be. I don't think Juszczyk would say, "Man, that offensive line really sucks. I don't understand, Kyle, why he did that." I wouldn't think he would do that.
Didn't someone on that station cry on air after they lost the Super Bowl? I heard.
There was a person.
Allegedly. There was a weeper.
Allegedly.
I mean, it was a very emotional moment. Marty Doberman says, "I want to see everyone walk off healthy." Hey, from your lips to God's ears. Yuki says, "Would you rather keep just BA or both Ward Demo? Because if you sign for $30 million in Purdy next year, how do you keep him and severely handicap your D?" I said in April that I would have traded Aiyuk before the draft. I don't understand why the Niners are doing this. It's too much for one high-level number 2 receiver.
Hey, Iggy, who's Demo?
Diamador Lenore. They call him Demo. Demo.
May I say something? Hold on.
Yeah.
Fans are allowed to do that.
Yes.
We're not.
I would never call him Demo.
His name is Diamador Lenore, and even when you're talking to Kyle about him, his name is
never say Demo.
Demo. I didn't know who the hell he was talking about, and I'm not friends with him.
Right.
He doesn't call me Lowly. He doesn't call me Lowly, or they call you Iggy.
There's all these nicknames on the team, like Travarius Ward is Mooney, and Jordan Mason is JP, and Jair Brown is Tig. It's like, that's great, but it's not my job to refer to them in press conferences or print by their nickname. So I'm glad that they have them. I have a nickname too, but no one calls me Iggy on screen, except for you. You call me Sweetie sometimes, but I'll let you do that because you're my dad. You got a special dispensation.
I have a question for you, Sweetie.
Okay.
Is Mayoko still broadcasting in the room?
Let me see. Hold on. Nah, he wrapped up. I don't think his show is as long as ours.
I was going to say you should say hello to him for me, but
I'll get him later. Demo. They have Demo. They used to have Defo in DeForest Buckner, called him Defo. So they have a little,
they got these.
Anoop says Brock saved Kyle in the playoffs by improvising on his schemes. Kyle handed Brock the wrong game plan in the Super Bowl with vanilla dropbacks. Everyone knows it. Kyle resentful of Brock. Are the 2024 Niners still losers?
Well, they're not losers. I mean, they're obviously a good team that wins a lot. The question is, can they win a Super Bowl? They're Super Bowl losers. Since this ownership came in, They like to brag about a lot of crap, but they are Super Bowl losers. And that's a fact.
When
And
the 40,
hold on. And it's a big fact. So people say, well, they win the NFC, they go to the NFC Championship, and they win the NFC Championship. Means jack. You got to win Super Bowls. End of story.
when the 49ers negotiate with Brock next year, and it's Jed and John and Prague, and they all sit down, do you think they're going to say, Brock, we are so lucky to have you. We're going to make you the highest paid player in the league. Or do you think they're going to say, Brock, we're going to say some things right now that you're not going to like to hear. We love you. We want you. But you're not as good as you think, and we're not going to offer you a Jared Goff, Tua Tagovailoa contract. You're going to be a tier below, and here are the reasons why. Look at this preseason game. Look at what you did without Trent Williams and Deebo Samuel in this game. Like, they're going to weaponize all that stuff against him, don't you think?
Yes, I think they're going to break his chops, and they're going to hurt his feelings. I do.
Yeah, I agree.
And listen, I don't think it's only them. I think every professional sports team does that. I do. I think in every major sport, they're not looking at them like fans. They're looking, how can we pay less money for these stars? And they're keeping a list. Oh, I'd say there's no question, Iggy.
Yeah. So when they throw a guy out there and set him up for failure in a preseason game, you wonder, like, are you setting the stage for your negotiation next year? I don't know, but it's a bad look, and don't do it again, Kyle. Don't do it again. Finger wag, official finger wag from young Cohn. Don't do it. You're lucky that guy didn't get hurt. Anyway, Gary says, put this towards a new camera for Dad and not so close to him. Dad, we got to give that camera a little spit shine.
You'll help me.
I'll help you.
Could I tell you something about this camera? It sort of makes my face a little vague, which helps me because I'm an old, ugly guy. So I understand in general. But, for me, it's okay.
All right. Well, I think we're done, Dad. We had our 4 topics. We riffed a little bit at the end. We did the sleeper picks. We took the super chats. We had a good time.
This is the height of my week for you.
This might have been our best show ever.
Oh, I would say probably.
Probably, yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Dad, I love you. I'll see you soon.
I love you, Iggy. I'll talk to you.
All right. See you guys.